Hey guys, welcome to the Outloud podcast. This is Tommy G. On behalf of Chuck, we'd like to welcome Al Granados, a longtime referee in the Pac-12, XFL, NFL Europe, arena football, and a 17-year vet over at Edison High School as a coach. Today on the pod, you're going to love his stories. This guy is first-class storyteller. Sit back, grab something brown and liquidy, and let's get to it.
Al, did you hear about the 605 game that Pioneer coaches coached? And so we got to coach. It was really fun. We had a great time. But we were against all the Long Beach schools and all that kind of stuff. Nobody thought we had a chance. Well, we were getting after it, and our kids were playing hard. We had some Villa Park kids and coaches and stuff, and it was awesome because our kids were just fired up. And we're beating them. We go in at halftime. We come back out. We're freaking really starting to put the boots to them a little bit. And the lights go out. And those guys on that side of the field, like it was some kind of a thing that everybody knew, they fucking charged our sideline.
What?
And they ran, the whole team, let's say half the team, ran across like they were going to attack us. And I'm standing at about the hash marks, getting ready to go out and talk to the referees. And here they come screaming and they stopped short and then just started jumping up and down like fucking wild Indians and screaming and yelling. I was like, wow, is that a deal? Like, you guys know that when the lights go out, you freaking, try to scare the shit out of the other team.
Yeah.
Fuck, I thought they were going to fucking, so we get the lights fixed.
Yeah.
Go out and play the game and win the game at the end. And we're out on the field and the kids are jacked. They really had a good time. The weeks of practice were fun, the whole deal. We go into the locker room, and during the time that the lights went out, about 6 guys went in and somehow got the locker room open. Our locker room opened and went in and stole everybody's phones, anybody's wallets, money, everything was gone. So those kids who were just jacked up and fired up and then went into the locker room and all their shit was gone.
That's embarrassing, man.
It was a shit show, man. I was like, fuck, you got to be fucking kidding me. And I'm going to say,
what stadium was it?
Young Pioneer.
Oh, at Pioneer.
Yeah, at Pioneer. So Donnerson, the Dominguez coach, young Donnerson.
Yeah.
He came over and he sat with us and he started making phone calls, and he made phone calls until he found out what happened. And those guys, they fucking, as soon as the lights went out, they went, let's go. And they went and they waited for somebody to come out from going to the bathroom in there, one of our guys, and fucking slid in and fucking ransacked the place. But it was like, the crazy.
That's bad stuff.
Oh, it was like, fuck, our kids, the parents were pissed. We went from feeling really good about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So let me get this straight.
Those Long Beach kids, man. Those Long Beach kids,
Well, shit, and it was city kids, it was that whole west side of the 605 freeway. So
right.
There was, we had the Linwoods and the Comptons and the whole all the way. Yeah, it was crazy.
Let me get this straight, Al. You were on the dark side and now you're coaching on the light side now? What's the deal with that? With this coaching business, I did not have this on my notes.
I've been at Edison. This will be my 17th year at Edison.
Wow.
Yeah. And I spent 20 years I spent 30 years as an official, 20 of those in the Pac-10.
Right.
And actually 2 years in the Pac-12 because I rolled over. Then my son, I wanted to watch my son play college football, Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't a hard people would always tell me, God, you're going to give that up. It was an easy choice for me, man.
Yeah, man.
It was no brainer,
So you coached against my son then?
Okay. Yeah.
So my son was at Villa Park in 2012. When you guys beat us twice
that year.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
Preseason and yeah.
We were really banged up on that first one, right? And we're like, okay, they got us, man, fair and square, and we're just, and then, we came guns ablaze. They came guns ablaze. I was in the stands. I dropped down to the freshman so I could do the same thing as you, watch my kid, and came guns ablaze, and that didn't work out.
Yeah.
We'll cut this out because it's not that significant, but we did have one goal line stand against y'all
You're
4
talking
downs
about at Anaheim Stadium, right?
at Anaheim Stadium.
Yeah.
4 downs, and hey, Chuck, you'll love this. The one linebacker made all 4 tackles. They went for it on 4th down. He made all, and so I show that video sequence to the freshmen when I coach them at the beginning of the year. Here's how you play. When we introduce goal line defense during Hell Week or whatever, I'm like, okay, watch this. Everybody does their job. Frog guys.
That was a Polynesian kid, right?
No, it was just he was our best player.
Yeah, he was a running back too.
Globally, but that wasn't the linebacker. The linebacker was just some journeyman, really. He was a guy that only played his senior year, and it was really special. It was fantastic. He was a hard-nosed kid. Huh. I'm doing lunch duty, and this kid, his name is Stamos, last name Stamos. He walked up to this guy. This guy there was a whole backstory. He walks up to this guy at lunch, bam, pops him in the face. Guy, like all woozy, and he just walks over to the principal's office and sits down in the principal's office. Like super calm. Like he wasn't emotional. The principal's like,
that sounds like Stanovich or
yeah. And he's like, the principal's like, did he deserve it? And he goes, yeah. He's okay, go home. We'll talk about this tomorrow. It was awesome.
Yeah.
See, that's beauty that even happens in the 20th century.
Oh man, I tell you what, it's so different.
Whittier Union is a no. It doesn't matter whether you start it or finish it or whatever.
Yeah.
If you throw a punch, you get transferred out and transferred to another school. Doesn't matter.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey Chuck, you know who's on that team for Edison was Zumwalt.
No, that was an 09.
Was it 09? We played you then too?
Zumwalt, that class in 09, we
play you in 09.
We beat Servite in the preseason, just hammered them. I mean, like hammered them.
Yeah.
And then we ended up playing. We're undefeated. We go to Anaheim Stadium and play Servite again in pouring rain. And Anaheim Stadium, we had a lot of speed on that team. And the turf was like floating. That's how bad it was. Troy Thomas was the happiest man on earth. He was like,
I remember the quarterback getting the first down in the kind of, at the end of the game. And I thought that guy is the greatest. He's a winner, man.
So that was Jordan Zumwalt?
Yeah. Jordan Zumwalt. Yeah.
Yeah. We worked, Tom and I both at one point worked at a college hospital, psych hospital, and Rick, the father, and his wife Annette, they both worked there. That's where we met them. And
Well, so Edison is my son's homeschool, where his mom lived in it, and then I was coaching at Villa Park, so he came to Villa Park. But all those guys were his buddies. The quarterback, he played soccer with the quarterback. The goalie. I mean, it was ugly to lose to those guys. Kyle took it on the chin pretty bad.
I tell you, it was a pretty unique situation for me because I lived right behind there, and all 3 of my kids went to school there. Yeah,
that's neat.
And so I started coaching freshman football because I'd have to leave on Fridays.
Yeah.
For my game, so I, coach all week. I had the best of both worlds, really, And I had done that for like the longest time. Then when I went up like in 08, in 09, I went up to varsity. I was coaching varsity. And, I would miss some Friday night games. It was just kind of a bummer. Yeah. And to tell you the truth, because I'd been officiating for so long, it hurt me more to miss Friday nights than it did Saturdays. Yeah. If you can believe it.
That's a good choice, man. Good choice.
Yeah. And sometimes my supervisor would let me slide because we signed a contract. We had to be there 24 hours before, And sometimes, man, I take that 6 a.m. flight to Arizona State, man, and I'd sneak into the hotel, just because I wanted to, especially when my son played.
I'll bet.
I wanted to be there, man. Right. So yeah, it was, I got some, but he went to Cal and started playing there. Then it was easy because Saturday mornings I would just go, I remember he was getting recruited by Washington State and Northwestern, and I was praying to God. I didn't want to tell him what to do, I was praying to God that he'd go somewhere in California,
Yeah. What was the coolest place you ever officiated as far as atmosphere wise?
Yeah. I've been pretty fortunate, man. I mean, I've had some pretty good games. I've worked Sugar Bowl 4 times.
Whoa.
I worked Capital One Bowl a few times. I've been to I've been to Notre Dame 5 times.
Wow.
I worked the SC Notre Dame game 3 times.
See, I thought they wouldn't let you do that, because
I Washington went and played at Notre Dame. I had that, and then Stanford went there and played, and I had
right
that.
on.
Yeah, so I have a great. You guys remember Bud Grant?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah,
Vikings.
I have a great Bud Grant story, man. SC was at Notre Dame. Do we have time for this? Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we got all the time we got.
SC was playing Notre Dame, and the head coach at SC was the real big guy, the coach, and he was the OC at
Charlie Weiss.
Yeah, Charlie Weiss.
Right.
And he had just gotten gastric bypass, So the umpire and the referee always go into the coaches, and kind of feel them out, right? And we walked in there, and he was like, he had all these like big Coke bottles and candies on we were cracking up because he had just gone through this operation.
Holy moly.
never looked at us. And he talked to us with his head down all the time, which I thought was kind of, was weird. Creepy, man. Creepy. So anyway, we walked out. So I knew Pete Carroll, because I'd work a bunch of scrimmage and games and stuff. So we see him outside our locker room where the gates is, where the teams come in, and he's with Bud Grant. And I knew exactly who he was when I saw him because, we all grew up watching, right?
Yeah.
And he was talking with Pete Carroll. And so anyway, I walked up to Pete Carroll. I was with the referee, walked up, and Pete Carroll had his hands in his pocket. And usually he'd hug me or he'd shake your hand or something, And he goes, "Hey, what's up?" He was very short with us, And he goes, "Coach, you got any, special plays we should know?" And went over a couple of rules. And he goes, "No, that's it," And so he walked away. So I told a referee, I said, "Wow, that's kind of a strange deal because he's real personable. If you know Pete Carroll, man, he's one of those type of guys, knows everything about your family, and love to talk." So anyway, if you guys ever been to any kind of game at Notre Dame, that's the mecca of college.
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times actually. I've been fortunate. Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. They at SC Notre Dame game, anybody's on the sideline, and it's 10 deep too. It's like there's a shitload of people on the sideline.
Snoop Dogg,
everybody, man. So anyway, I'm standing on the field, and they're singing the national anthem, and they've got freaking jets are flying over, and the hair on the back of your head's like standing up, And I'm standing there, and the guy behind me whispers, and he goes, "Hey, there's nothing like this, huh?" And when I turned around, it was Joe Theismann.
Oh, wow. And
I looked at him, I go, "Yeah," this is cool. I go, "But how about all them Super Bowls, man?" And he goes, "Hey, doesn't even compare. This is way better." He told me,
Wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So anyway, the game's about to start. And I'm on the side, I'm on SC sideline, and they're doing, TVs out there, and it lasts a long time, So I'm sitting there standing around acting like I'm doing something, and I see Pete Carroll at the corner of my eye, and he's running towards me, and he comes up to, he goes, "Yeah, Al," he goes, "Have a good game, man." He goes, "I hope you don't take that personally," and shake your hand. I go, "No, Coach, I don't, that's cool." I was just worried about the game, man. I was all hyped up for the game. He goes, "Yeah, I was, I just did, Bud Grant was standing next to me, and I worked on his staff, and, he's kind of my mentor. And he never shook hands with the official."
Okay.
And he goes, "Just out of respect for him, man, I kept my hands in my pocket. I hope you understand." I go, "Absolutely, Coach."
That's cool. Well, that's neat that he made sure he made contact with you like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, the game was going to start too, so you want to make sure everything was good.
Well, it's funny. My brother has nothing but amazing things to say about Pete. Pete was at the Jets when Matt got signed on over there. In his first year of playing in the league, and everybody that I've ever talked to about him said that he's just he's a neat guy to be around.
Yeah.
So, well, let's go back a little bit, Alan. Just kind of give us a little bit of an idea on where you started from as far as your career path to kind of get to the officiating. Where'd you start? What got you interested in that? Because I think it's a neat story.
Well, I've just like you, Chuck. I mean, I was cracking up. Who was I talking to? Chuck and I used to work the snack bar for the flag football games in St. Paul. Remember those days, Chuck?
I do.
One for you, one for
Yeah.
you, one for
There
me.
was no, there was no accounting at all.
No, there was no books or nothing to write anything down. It was
That's great. Yeah,
That's money.
it was funny. But anyway, I after I left St. Paul, I went to USD, and I got in a little bit of trouble. So I ended up coming back, and I went to St. Paul and actually coached a year there.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And the very next year, I went to Long Beach City College because I still wanted to play football.
Right.
So I ended up going to Long Beach City College, and I played there. I was there for 3 semesters. I played there 2 years. Man, it was an awesome time.
With a cast of characters, man. Those guys,
my God,
that was a heck of a group.
Junior college football. I mean, we had Greg Townsend. I mean, we had some freaking Don Lonan. We had some I had never been on a team. They were deep everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, just athletes too. It's funny too because I don't know if I can say this on the show, but
you can say whatever you want. Yeah.
The first time,
our one listener.
Yeah, coming from St. Paul, it's the first time I ever played with black players.
Right.
It was kind of a culture shock for me, man, because we never were in the training room ever.
Yeah.
And it was a whole different world, man, when I went to Long Beach City College.
Yeah.
Guys wouldn't practice all week, but on game day they were ready to go,
The world's greatest trainers.
Yeah, I just couldn't, I couldn't understand it, But anyway, I played there, I played there 2 years, had a ton, made some really good friends that I talk to still today.
Nice.
And I went to Humboldt State after that.
What position did you play?
I was a center and a long snapper.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I made my way. I wasn't the biggest guy, but I was one of those guys that just hung my hat on technique.
Yeah.
And stayed in the weight room and tried to be, as healthy as I could, and I survived it,
Well, Redwood Stadium's cool place to play.
Oh my God, yeah, they had just built it too.
Oh man.
Before I got there, they had just built it. Yeah, it was.
I was telling Tom, I was kind of giving him a little bit of background, and I was telling him about your junior year where the offensive line was kind of behemoth. They had some big guys. Yeah. But you guys were the guys that, you started to play a lot and stuff. And by that next year, when you guys were seniors,
yeah,
you guys weren't huge, but man alive, those guys ran and trapped and
yeah, we had a good group, and all those guys I said were very technically sound. Katowski did a great job, man.
Yeah.
He was a really good coach, and his specialty was with guys like us, like me and Randy Reynoso, and Wozinski, who, was pretty good. Trapoletti was a pretty legit guy.
Yeah.
And then we had, Gibson was our tight end. Phil Goff, he was a good player, and I remember, we were playing, I remember playing Bishop Almont, and we were kicking the shit out of, we would come up to the line and say, we're running right here. And we would point to where we were going.
Yeah.
Stop us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the best part about when I started coaching at St. Paul. We went back and we scooped up all the old films that we could find. Most of them were in Marion's basement. But the ones that were left, we found, and we just watched those things and watch. And that was the one thing that I remember just being in awe of, is the offensive line guys just pointing and talking shit and here we come, and then again.
Taking guys, it was one of those things where, later on when my son, because I was back then, I was an O-line coach. When he came up, it was kind of like I kind of tried to instill in him the same things the way I did it,
Yeah.
And he was notorious. I remember for taking. I remember officials used to call me and say, "Hey man, your son, he plays on the edge, and I say, well, flag him, man. What are you gonna do? Chuck, you rather pull the reins back on a guy than try to light a fire. You know what I mean?
It's one of the staples of coaching that I used to talk to my coaches about. I said, if we got a kid that we got to pull back on and get him squared away, he's the guy we want. Not the guy you got to push to get out there and go to the edge. But yeah, throw a flag on him. That'll then he'll know where the line is.
He was good. Even
awesome.
I remember Dave White used to drive Dave White crazy. But every time he used to get in a penalty, he used to turn around and look at me like, "What do you want me to do?" He was good for a personal foul. every game. Even when he got to Cal, his O-line coach, I remember talking to Sonny Dykes one time. He was telling me, "Yep, if Dominic's good for one of those, at least one of those a game." He was one of those guys who used to sweep guys standing around piles.
Yeah.
The old days, man.
Get your ticket punched.
The old days. Yeah. My brother and Pat Harlow are good friends. And Pat,
I see Pat this often.
That's what those guys talk about that. That was the deal. You swept the pile, Nobody got to come in, late on anybody or anything like
that. Hey man, if you don't have your head on a swivel, you shouldn't be on the field.
Oh man. I tell you what, I played, in college and I can't tell you that anybody ever hit me hard enough, except a couple times that I blitzed and the guard dual read and came out and earholed me. And I thought, I was like, that's what a concussion is.
Yeah. Well, look, that's what cracks me up too, is that kids know now. The kids are a little different now, so they know the protocol, they'll be ready to give you your helmet. Here, take the helmet. Where all of us, when we would never do that, man. How many times, I know that I have 5 registered concussions that I've had. 3 of them were in the Pac-10 when I'm gotten hammered, but how many other ones did we have?
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to say almost as many in practice as I got in games.
Hey, the toughest guys you play against are your own teammates.
Yeah. It was, I was telling somebody the story the other day. In my senior year, Mike Gallego and I were really good friends and did not talk to each other all year long, because that was back in the days when the receivers were still down in a 3-point stance. Walk up on those guys and just pummeled them. It was just horrendous. And there were no referees at practice. So it was, I think it was, I think the toughness factor was, was a big deal back then. I would have never played in college if I would have had to be just on speed. I wasn't fast enough. So an edge.
So Al, when I was on the youngest guy on Marion's staff, I was coaching, and he would send me. I was the guy that had to go infiltrate the referee clinic. So I spent the whole spring going to all the meetings, taking all the tests, and I was the guy.
You probably see me at a couple of clinics because
and every year when we would get time for the final test, I would say, "Okay, guys, I changed my mind. Go back to St. Paul and coach." And I come back 2 years later. Okay, going back. I was like a spy. And what is the motivation these days for being an official? Because the shortage of officials is unbelievable. They're begging for guys. They have guys that don't know anything.
I'll tell you what, my son's going to officiate this year.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's first time. So I got a couple guys, mentoring him a little bit, and I'm trying to help him as much as possible.
What unit is he going to be in?
He's going to be his first year this year, but he got cut. It didn't happen.
Is he an Orange County unit or Long Beach unit?
No, he lives in Orange County, but I'm having him start in Long Beach. That's where I started.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's it's kind of the quality of officiating, and I'm pretty easy on guys. I'll never criticize somebody's judgment. Never. Even though coaches on our staff do, like, fuck, man, I'm not gonna do that. But I'll tell you what. If a guy has poor mechanics, I'm going to be all over it, because you got to put yourself in a spot to make calls,
Right.
And if you're not there, man, then I'm going to jump all over you about it, But
that's
if
a great thing for a coach.
First call or clothing call, geez, that's just part of the game,
Yeah. That's a great thing for a coach to be able to understand those mechanics, man.
I'll tell you what, Dave White, it took me 10 years on his staff. He's a crazy man, and he's got a lot better. The last 4 or 5 years, he's been pretty good. He's
a red-faced guy for sure.
Oh my God, his veins are popping out of his head.
So you come back, Al, and you coach for a year, and then again, talk about the progression.
Well, I went to Long Beach City College, and I did a lot of. I did some club, flag football type stuff. Earned some beer money, and then I went to Humboldt, and I did the same thing there, and then I came back. And I was working for Anheuser-Busch, and I wanted to officiate, but didn't have the time to coach, So Handy, I talked to Handy, and he hooked me up with, where to go, who to talk to. So when I first got in, it was the varsity was 4-man mechanics.
Wow.
And it was really hard. You had to wait 4 or 5 years to get a varsity game. Mm-hmm. You got to pay your dues, which doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It's amazing that they'll put a brand new guy in a varsity game. It's stupid, you know, that they do that. But anyway, I was pretty fortunate that, so anyway, what I would do is I would find a varsity game that was close to my house or something, and I would come in and volunteer to be the fifth guy.
All right.
So I wouldn't get paid or anything, but you know, they'd buy me beers after the game, stuff like that. But I was getting my, you know, I was gaining,
Frantones.
yeah, Frantones. I was gaining some experience, you know. So I'd come in as the line judge or the head linesman, and they would push the experienced guy out to the back judge because all those guys wanted to play center field, right? But in 4-man mechanics, it just didn't happen. So I did that for probably 3-4 years, and then I got on a crew, and that's when they started going 5-man mechanics. And from then on, man, I mean, I started. I would work a varsity game, and I would work a lower division game on Thursday and a varsity game on Thursday, and then I would work a lower division game on Friday, and a varsity game on Friday. And then when I got into junior college, I was doing JC games, and then I would do a 1 o'clock JC game and a 7 o'clock JC game.
Wow.
And then on Sunday I would do semi-pro.
Nice.
So
You were living the dream. You were
yeah,
living
I was getting a ton of football in, and as much as I could. And later on, I did that for probably 10 years.
just the driving to the JC games is unreal.
Yeah.
Antelope Valley, College of the Desert,
Yeah,
you know, Mount St. Jack. I mean, that's craziness.
And they would call me sometimes and say, hey, you know, so-and-so can't make it. And I'd go from Compton to Antelope Valley. And I would get there right at kickoff.
Wow, man.
You know, after working in game and then driving, you know what your body feels like, right?
Yeah.
Getting out of the car and stuff like that. Sometimes what I would do is when I started getting, you know, more experience in junior college, I would take my son, who was 10, and he would be the ball boy.
Oh.
So he was from the real young age, he was around locker rooms and football fields. And, you know,
that's great. Yeah.
You know, he was living the dream. I would think.
Plus, he would go get those deep balls.
Yeah. Last time he was yeah, exactly. So the young guy run. But, you know, lots of times he was better than, you know, the guys that they had, you know.
That's awesome.
I did that for a long time. And then I broke into the Big West.
Oh, wow.
You know, and then I had like a 2 years there. Then they shut the Big West down, and then the WAC picked me up. So I had work games in the WAC, and at that time they were sharing games with the Pac-10. So that's how I got into the Pac-10 too.
What was your reputation? What was it that got you to the next level?
I think I had a really good reputation that I kind of kept my flag in my pocket.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I didn't throw a lot of flags.
Love those guys.
Yeah, love you.
Yeah. I mean, I threw a lot of flags. I tell you what, Jim
stars.
Harbaugh, and he would actually request me at his games.
Wow.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh. I mean, and then at Oregon, Kelly.
Chip Kelly.
Yeah, Chip Kelly was another one. He's a trip. I had a great story about him.
What was your position?
I was an umpire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was an umpire. And that's a really rare position for a younger guy or a newer guy to get into, because that's usually a seniority position, you know. Yeah.
So tell the people that are listening where that is, where you position yourself.
Well, I position myself. I was a 5.5, 6 yards right in between the linebackers over the center. You know, my keys were legal snap, 2 guards, offside tackle from the referee. You know, and I got to the point, though, I got really good at doing that, mainly because I was working arena football too.
Oh, wow.
And
fast pace.
It was a fast paced game, man. I would do a whole season of arena football, and then I would come back and do a scrimmage, and everything was like a slow motion. So I was able not only to see my offside tackle, I could see all 5 guys.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that the reputation I had is that I hustled, I ran all over the place.
Yeah.
And
got the ball set.
I get the ball set, I put the ball down. You know, Chip Kelly really liked it, especially when that hurry up offense game.
The tempo. Yeah,
those guys, what they used to do is they used to rate the umpires on who put the ball down the fastest.
Right.
And those are the guys that they wanted on their crew to work their games, you know?
Yeah. That's
what do you think of the new mechanics where the umpire's back with the referee now? Is that,
well, you know something? I used to love that. When I worked in NFL Europe, they used to put us back there for punt. And I used to love that because I got a way better view, because on punt, usually the umpire was like being on the 405 when it's busy, you're just dodging bodies. Cause you know, this, Chuck, those guys, they snap the ball, and for the first 10 yards, they're looking at the ground, trying to get speed up.
Yeah.
Right? And then they're looking up, and whatever happens.
I'll tell you what, probably the hardest hit I ever had in college was hitting a referee. And it was, and it was, just sheer him taking one step back and me taking the angle to the ball carrier. And
oh my God. Yeah. And that's the best hits. I had in 2011 or 2010, I had my hips replaced.
Oh, wow.
And I had it done like the last week in December. And then by March, I was running already. And I didn't want to miss my arena season, So I kind of hobbled my way through the arena football. And then come August, I got my schedule, the Pac-10. Well, sure enough, man, in September, I have, Stanford with Andrew Luck was a quarterback at Stanford.
Yeah.
And Oregon, they were both rated number 1 and number 2. Oregon, I forget who they had, but they were pretty legit.
Yeah.
And they're playing at Stanford. And it was an ABC game, and it was like a 5:00 game. And I remember, it was my real first game with live action, with like real football.
Yeah.
And I just got my hips replaced, and I'm thinking, whatever. Anyway, so sure enough, man, Oregon goes into a punt, and I go back 10 yards, and I'm trying to, figure it out. And I get all my guys go by me, and I'm going, beautiful. I turn around, I'm running towards the ball, trying to figure out where it's going to get tackled. And sure enough, I get blasted from behind.
Ouch.
And I go flying like 5 yards, and sure enough, I fall on my side, on my hip, right? I get up, I slide a little bit, and I jump up because your adrenaline's running, right?
Yeah.
So I jump up real quick. I run down there, and this guy's running behind me, apologizing to me, like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm just like running away from him. I see the ball. Guy throws me the ball. I come back, boom, and I start thinking, God, I feel okay now. Gee, that's all right. I'm all right. But that was a crazy time.
That's so funny. I could not convince that referee that I didn't do it on purpose. And he told me I think we had him 2 or 3 more times in my college career.
Yeah.
And every time he walked up and said, "If you touch me, I'm going to flag you. And if you touch me twice, I'm going to throw you out of the game." It was not having any of it, man. I was like, I won't, I promise.
I knew this guy it was a total accident,
I got the umpire story. So we're playing the second game of the year. We're playing Santa Monica, and they have Glenn Milburn, Stanford, Denver Broncos guy.
Yeah.
But it's their first game, Al. So we don't have tape on him.
Yeah.
We played Loyola, then we played Santa Monica. We don't have any tape on this guy. So they run a 51 crunch, and I'm playing free safety, and I fly up, and Glenn Milburn jukes the umpire into me. Like the umpire went this way, and he came back and wham, hit me.
Yeah.
Bam. Glenn Milburn goes freaking 75 yards for a touchdown.
He's a jet.
And I didn't get up and run. I didn't chase him, which was a faux pas at St. Paul. Like I would have chased him and been 10 yards behind him. And I looked at the referee. I'm like, what the? I lost my cool on that deal. And he was all dazzled. He was like, oh, like out of shape guy. But I was like, you son of a bitch. And, that was, I got that vision. I looked at the tail end of Glenn Milburn all night long. But that time I thought I had him, and I got destroyed by the umpire.
I tell you what, I only one time in my whole career, I knew that a player hit me on purpose.
Oh, wow.
And I had like a personal thing with this guy for a couple of years, and when I would get Arizona State games, he was a linebacker, and he played in the NFL. He was a crazy Burfict was his last name.
Vontez. Yeah, he's a freak.
The fucking craziest knucklehead.
Yeah, I mean, he was a great guy to watch play because he was a freak, and but him and we did not get along.
You're not the only one, Al. Gee whiz.
Yeah.
What's the move? How do you handle business when you're supposed to be impartial, but then there's this? What's the move?
It's hard, man. It's hard to do it because, one time he got to the point where like I was just looking for things to flag him on. I mean, when you start doing that, then that's wrong.
Yeah.
I bet he told Dennis Erickson, who was the head coach back then. He told Dennis Erickson, I called him the N-word,
Of course he did.
Yeah.
Sure.
So during the TV timeout, Dennis Erickson calls me over and goes, Al, what's the deal, man? He says, Devontae says you call him, the N-word, and I go, Coach, they're all 22 players are calling each other the N-word out there. You know, I go, another thing, I go, you've known me. Would I ever, come on. And he goes, yeah, I know. He goes, don't worry about it. Forget it. Well, sure enough, Monday morning, I was getting the phone call.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, those are the things you can't take that back. You know, that's one of those things.
No, exactly. You know, but you know, the thing that was in my favor is everybody kind of knew he was a nutcase. You know,
He's a knucklehead.
He was.
Sure.
Yeah.
I saw him in the championship.
Before we get too far away from it, I want to hear the Chip Kelly story.
So Chip Kelly, I was telling you about the umpires. Anyway, I would get a lot of Oregon games for some reason. I tell you what, that's another place that
Austin
is fabulous to go to.
Yeah.
I mean, not only that, but they treat you. I mean, it's first class all the way.
There's no track there, Chuck, so you're right in the game. The fans are on your back.
The fans are right on you and stuff. And I got a great. Do we have a minute to talk about this?
Yeah,
man.
So I have Michigan is playing Oregon, right? An ABC game on a Saturday morning. It was a 1:00 game, which all colleges should be played at 1:00. You know, so Michigan is down to play. It's an ABC game. I got that game. So we go in to see Lloyd Carr was the head coach then.
Mm-hmm.
And we go into the locker room, and the first thing he says to me, he goes, You Pac-10 guys, you always fuck us when we come here. It was kind of hilarious, you know. And I go, Coach, come on, man. I go, I don't, you know, I'm different. I don't give a shit who wins. You know, I really don't. You know, most of the time I walk away from. This is a true story. I'll walk away after the game, and sometimes I don't remember who won.
Right.
I mean, they'll have to ask me, and I'll go, shit. I think they won. I think, you know. But anyway, we're doing I'm doing the Michigan game, and it was the year before replay, if you can remember that. Before the college took replay.
Right.
So it's a big, huge game, and Alton Stadium is at, you know, I use a Fox 40 whistle, which is like an indoor whistle. It's really loud.
Yeah. You
can't even hear somebody talk. I mean, that's how loud it is.
I got a Fox 40.
Yeah, and it's you know, I mean, you can't even hear the whistle. I mean, that's how loud that place is. So anyway, it's a really good game, you know, and they're going back and forth, and Oregon is up. I think they're up by 6. And Oregon, I mean, Michigan gets the ball and they're driving it all the way down the field, you know, just little bits at a time, just boom, 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 boom. So they're like inside the 15. I want to say the 13 or the 12. And there's less than a minute left in the game. So they're taking shots, you know, trying to score. You know, they need a touchdown to win, you know, to win the game. So it's down to like 20 seconds, and it's fourth down. It's fourth down. So they come out and they throw a bullet in the corner of the end zone. So I turn on passes. That's one of my things. I turn on short passes. So I turn on short pass, and I see the guy come up the ball like this, and, you know, facing the quarterback, right? Uh-huh. And he scoops it up, and the ball hits his chest, but the tip of the ball hits the ground, but it comes back up. So I have the back judge and the side judge are going like this, touchdown, right? So yeah, so they're running up there. So sure enough, here I am. I'm running 15 yards away, and I'm waving it off, blowing my whistle, waving it off, right? So Oregon fans are going crazy. Michigan's almost off the sideline, right? Going crazy, man. They're yelling at me. You know, whatever word you can think, they're yelling at me.
How bad?
Right? So the back judge comes up to me and goes, "Hey, man, you know, did you see that?" I go, "Yeah, it hit the ground." And the side judge comes in and he goes, "Are you sure?" He started asking me, "Are you sure about that?" Right? And I go, "Yeah, I mean, why would I wave it off?"
It's a lot of effort to get it wrong.
Yeah, it hit the ground.
Not sure.
Hit the ground, right? Referee comes running over there. What do you got? What do you got? I go, "Hit the ground." He goes, "Okay, incomplete pass." You know, first down, Oregon.
Oh my God. Ball game.
Right? So sure enough, man, you know, it's human nature, right? It's human nature to, you know, when somebody questions you, even though you're sure in that big of a, you know, magnitude of the game, you start thinking to myself. So I start second guessing myself, thinking, wow, did he like do a super athletic move where I didn't really see what I saw, you know? I mean, I started thinking like that, right?
That's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, man. It is, because people don't realize, I mean, you can sit at home and play it back and forth. my decision is like a fraction of a second. I got to make up my mind, right? So Oregon comes out and then they take a knee, boom, game over. So at Oregon, of course, I was on the other side of the field, right? So I got to run all the way across. Michigan players are already coming out. Coaches are freaking chasing us. The security guys are surrounding me, and they're taking me off the field.
The Mounties.
Yeah, I go up the stairs. You know, there's a really nice facility. I go up the stairs. We go in the locker room. I go in there, man. I kind of like try to, catch my breath a little bit. I start because we have observers that come in, right? We have guys that sit up in the booth, observers. They grade us, and that's how we get bowl games. So they come up. I'm in the corner of the, I'm kind of like, taking my stuff off. They got all kinds of, I'm all wired up, and a couple of the officials come in. Hey man, I'm pretty solid call. Are you sure? That type of thing, And I go, yeah, I'm pretty sure you hit the ground. At this point, I was saying, yeah, I think it did. Type of thing. And sure enough, man, the observers come over there, and I see one of the old guys. Jim Sheffers. His son, actually, Carl, is working the Super Bowl this year.
Oh wow!
He has a referee. He's a Whittier guy too.
No kidding.
Yeah, Carl is. Yeah, Carl Sheffers. So anyway, I come walking. I'm like taking my stuff off in the corner eye, and he looks at me and he goes like this.
You got it. You made it.
Got it, man. I nailed it. And I was like, this whole way just went. Whoosh.
Now, is that because he saw the replays and
they said that they had like 4 or 5 replays, and none of them showed that it hit the ground except the one coming in like this.
Oh,
From your angle.
The very last one, and they said they saw the tip come down like this, and he said the announcers were burying me until they saw that last one.
That's awesome.
And they go, "Oh yeah,
vindication."
Yeah.
So did Chip buy you a drink that night, or I don't know where does Chip come in on this deal?
Well, no, the Chip was later on. I mean, after replay came in and stuff like that. I was at Oregon, and I just got off a tangent. I'm sorry, man.
No.
Hey, I just turned 62, man. So what I mean. It's like you start thinking about stuff that you forget.
Those are great. Yeah.
You start remembering shit.
So is it a competitive thing for you, Al? Why you're doing 6 games a week at one point? Yeah. I mean, why are you such a burning desire for this?
Because I just wanted to get reps. I wanted to get better at what I was doing. You know what I mean?
But that would have been anything, right? You were.
Yeah, I mean, officiating is one of those. It's very competitive, and we all the officials have that A-type personality. We're very competitive.
Well, not anymore, but go ahead.
We're yeah, exactly. Yeah. I used to get pissed off when guys want to know where their check was. Like, what the fuck? What? You're out here getting.
You should pay them to coach or to ref.
Are you crazy? I used to think that was so rinky dink when guys used to do that, But anyway, Chip Kelly was he came up to me during the game one time, and this is before I knew, Chip Kelly is he's a scientific type guy. He's a stat guy. He's a true stat guy.
Mm-hmm.
He takes stats on everything. And so he comes up to me one time during the game. It was a TV timeout. We're shooting the shit. He was a pretty personal guy, once you got to know him. And he would say, "Hey, Al," he goes, yeah, my dog's crying over there. He would always, he would say that he would always want me to do his games, and I go, "Really, Coach, why?" He goes, "I don't really throw a lot of flags, My big thing was make it big.
Right.
If they're not doing a channel 13 takedown hold in front of me, it's not holding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway,
whatever happens in the trenches happens in the trenches.
Yeah, exactly, man. Guys hold the shit out of guys all the time. You have to decipher if it affects the play.
Right.
Can that guy get away and make the tackle? You know what I mean? That's right. That was my philosophy. You have to have a philosophy. I always tell guys that too. You got to have a philosophy, man. You just can't go out there and throw freaking flags and not have a philosophy. So Chip Kelly was always telling me, we were always like that you work the games. And I go, "Why, Coach?" And he goes, "Well, because when it comes to spotting the ball," he goes, "you're the guy that puts it down the fastest of all the referees because we don't, put the ball down, right? Let's go. Put the ball down. Let's go."
Yeah.
And he knew by time how what the time was for each guy.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. That's
unbelievable.
He's a stat guy,
Yeah.
That's why he was so successful at Oregon. I mean, he had a stat for everything.
So what was your career besides, because refereeing is not full time, right?
I worked for Anheuser-Busch. I was a beer guy.
So did you work at Triangle, or where did you work?
I worked at Triangle, and then I worked for the brewery, and then
so John Alvarez.
I know John is one of my best friends.
That's my uncle's best friend.
Yeah, he just retired. John just retired.
Chuck, he was part owner in the Coachella.
Yeah, he was
Coachella Valley.
he was a minority owner. Yeah,
and he made more money than anybody because of Coachella and Stagecoach.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
My uncles went to school with them in Norwalk High and grade school, and he's still a friend of the family.
Did you know Rex Ives?
Rex Ives is one of my. He was my he would torture me as a kid, man.
Yeah,
this guy's a hillbilly, Chuck. Rex Ives is a hillbilly.
I lived with Rex when I got back from Humboldt.
Well, I'm gonna have to talk to my uncles because they know you, Ed Sanchez and John Sanchez.
Oh yeah, those guys, John Sanchez. Those guys. I remember he built a insert for my truck when I was working at Triangle.
Yeah. I'm
John
sorry to derail the
Ron Stout. No, Ron Stout.
Ron Stout. All those guys. Yeah. Those
Yeah,
guys were like, when I graduated from high school, those guys would go to my games at St. Paul, and they wanted to do something.
Yeah, those guys. I lived with Ron and Rex, right by Long Beach State when I was working at.
Oh
at
my
Triangle.
God! John Alvarez played a little pro baseball, Chuck, and he was right. He was about to be in the show. He was in the Padres organization. He was like the guy. He was a third baseman. And they traded for Greg Nettles at the end of his career, and he's like, "Fuck it." And he went to Mexico and made some serious loot down in Mexico.
You know what his claim to fame was?
What?
He went deep on Fernando. Fernando, yeah.
Down in Mexico though, I'm sure.
I was only my batting average was only 2 points away from going to the big leagues.
And he was a Cal State Fullerton guy, Chuck. So Augie Garrido guy. So he's got all these stories about Augie and
good stories too.
And the dude from Cerritos was a god as well. The coach for Cerritos. Kincaid.
Yeah, Kincaid.
Yeah.
So they had Kincaid and Augie Garrido, these dudes, these knuckleheads.
Yeah, those guys are legit coaches, man. They were the real.
They won the first championship at Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I just talked to John. It's funny you say that. Small world, because he's one of my best friends.
Oh, he's a great guy.
John, yeah.
Well, Chuck, his wife is blonde hair, blue eyed. I mean, as white as you can be.
Yeah.
But because she spent time in Mexico, she starts talking Spanish, and you're like,
oh, really?
Whoa, what's going on here?
Beverly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to derail the conversation, Al.
No, it's all right.
Right.
I mean, that's
all good.
Yeah, that's the best kind of conversation to have. I mean, like I told you, it's like, I'm 62, so things come back to me.
So tell me, you must have been in some crazy like USC, UCLA games.
I tell you what, I got one that just came to my mind right now. In fact, I have two back to back. I remember working at Cal when Aaron Rodgers was a quarterback at Cal.
Nice.
And Matt Leinart was a quarterback at SC. And it was Cal won in triple overtime.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with a field goal.
And that kind of broke the streak.
It did.
SC was on a run, right?
Yeah, the very next year is when they were in the big run.
Okay.
And SC was loaded. Their linebackers were just unbelievable. I mean, they're probably the best linebackers.
Was it Clay Matthews?
I have ever witnessed, It was trying to think all those guys. The kid from Mater Dei.
Oh, Grudigood?
Grudigood.
Yeah, Grudigood was probably one of the most purest football players I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the real deal.
Oh man.
He wore like one little bar, didn't wear anything on his arms. Yeah. He never said it, didn't talk shit, didn't do any of that kind of. He was a missile. He used to take out the linemen.
My grandfather played semi-pro with the leather helmet, and we saw Matt play. We saw Matt play like 5 times his senior year, and he goes, "That guy tackles like we used to tackle back in the day. He saws you off, or he cut your legs."
Yeah,
boom.
He's a player. They had that. They had that other linebacker, the big white dude that played for the Texans. I can't think of his name. Kind of long hair, crazy dude. They had him. They had the Polynesian kid. That was another.
Polamalu?
No, this. He was after that. It was a crazy guy.
Kid that played for Seattle.
I'm trying to think.
Malamalu or Mal.
No, he played. He might have played for Seattle. I know they had him, and they had this. They had a couple. They had some really legit DNs, and D linemen were just legit. Anyway, they played. Cal came down to SC to play after losing a triple overtime the year before. I remember talking to Lee Corso on the sideline. He said he had never been on a college football field with so much NFL talent.
Really?
That's what Lee Corso was. Yeah, it was. I mean, it
was Marshawn Lynch the running back for Cal? I know that Aaron Rodgers had a great running back as well. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm trying to think who they had. They had a real guy though.
They had a real guy.
But anyway, Aaron Rodgers that game broke a college record for most consecutive passes, completions in that game.
Wow.
And they ended up losing by like 6 points or less than a touchdown, I think. Going into it was a great game. I mean, stadium was packed. That's a great stadium to work a football game, and a ton of talent, hardly any penalties at all,
Clean and fast.
Fun.
Clean.
Yeah.
It was a clean game. They let them play, and there were some tough calls that they just let it go, But
now, do you guys get on this? Do you guys get in a crew when you're in college, or are you just free agents in college?
No, I was pretty fortunate. When I first got in, I was with a guy named Jim Fogeltans, who's in replay now, and then I was with some really good referees. Dave Kataya. I was with Dave Kataya.
So you guys become like a fraternity, and you guys are a crew, and you guys
very tight.
You're a gang,
tight,
and you guys have a mentality and a philosophy and an attitude, don't you?
Yeah, we know where all the best restaurants are when we hit the city. Just
that's not exactly what I was talking about, but that's awesome.
No, I think the first 5 years I was on the same crew.
Oh man.
And then when I picked up a little experience, they would always put me with a new referee, But you become really like a family, tight. You spend Thanksgivings at some guy's house because you're working on Thanksgiving and that stuff like that. It's a real fraternity,
Al, do you think that playing the position you played, playing the center spot was a big part of you understanding the game?
I think so. I think so. I think it didn't help me learn the rules because all football players think they know the rules and they really don't.
Right.
So it took me a while just to learn the rules and stuff. But as far as what's a hold, what's not a hold, what's a foul, what's not a foul, a kid blocking, I pretty much let the guys inside play the game. Another thing that I was told I was known for is that I think I was a pretty good communicator with guys inside. We'd go into a TV timeout and I would talk to all my D linemen. I would talk to the offensive linemen. I remember a D lineman would tell me, hey, that guy's holding me. I would tell him, hey man, he says he's holding you, don't hold, or something like that, and I would just make sure. I would ask guys, hey, how am I doing? Am I staying out of your way?
Nice. I like that.
Am I okay? And they would come up and tell me, complain about guys. And I would listen to them, and then when they would bitch too much, I'd get on their ass about, hey, you're a good player. You got to fight that off, or take your roller skates off. You're getting your ass kicked,
That's a great attitude because in high school now, the guys have such a chip on their shoulder.
Oh my God.
You can't even look at them cross and they're.
I know. I used to go to Orange County and talk at officials clinics and stuff. And my two topics I used to talk about was personal appearance, how you look.
Yeah.
Why are you going to give a coach ammo when you look like shit walking on the field?
Sloppy
or fat, or something like that. You don't shave or whatever, or I used to talk about how to talk to coaches, So
that's such a huge deal. I mean,
it's huge.
Those guys are the guys that you don't want to shred those guys. You don't want to unnecessarily. And I know some guys do. We've always played against guys that some of those schools that they just ripped them. It didn't matter how cool you were, but
right.
I can't tell you how many times a coach has said, hey, you missed that call, and I agreed with him. I said, yeah, you're right, coach. I missed it. But I'll tell you what, I'll get him next time.
Yeah.
That fucks us up, dude. we don't know what to say then.
They don't know what to say.
I want to yell at you, I want you to
hey,
tell me you're right.
I got a great Bobby Bowden story. I worked Bobby Bowden's last bowl game.
Nice.
And I worked Joe Paterno's last bowl game too. I got a story about him too. But
that's got to be it then. Both of those guys, that was their last game.
Yeah, their last game.
Wow.
So anyway, Bobby Bowden, they're playing Wisconsin in the Capital One Bowl, I think it was. And, those kind of guys like Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno, John Robinson, Bob Toledo, those guys, they're more spokesmen, they're just these guys that sit on, they don't wear headphones or anything. They sit on this throne almost, you know, and they surround themselves with really, really good assistants.
Yeah.
That's how they do it.
Yeah. That's
So,
amazing.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
what was Bobby like?
So yeah, he was great. Bobby Bowden's great, man. So he's a lot of fun. I remember the dinner before we officials were at the banquet, and he come up to our table, and he goes, hey, you all officials want to take a picture with Bobby Bowden? You know, he's one of those type of guys, you know. So sure enough, so Wisconsin's putting a little shellacking on Florida State, you know.
Yeah.
And his coaches are freaking out of control at a bowl game. You know, they're yelling at our side guy, they're yelling at me, you know, and they all know our names, right? We've been partying with them all week, you know. So they're yelling this, and this, you know. And so I kind of like, freaking, I've had it, man, you know, I'm done. I'm in a bowl game. I'm supposed to have fun, you know. So during team I walk over there, and I'm walking closer to Coach Bowden, and the assistants are like all behind him, like screaming, you know. And I said, hey, I go, Coach, I'm not talking to any of these guys. I'm just talking to you, or I'm not talking at all, you know? And so he turns around, and the minute he turns around, they all back off, you know? So I walk up to him, I go, Coach, what's the deal? And he goes, well, you know, Al, this guy is he's holding our All-American, you know, nose band, and he's, you know, not meant to make tackles. He's making up a bunch of bullshit, really. And I'm going like, it's okay. Okay, Coach. So anyway, right when he gets down, you done, Coach? And he goes, yeah. So I go and I put my arm around him. I go, hey, Coach, just know this. It's you and me against those 6 other pricks. He goes, I got your back. You know? And all the officials, all the coaches that are standing behind me, they all start laughing. You know what I mean? And from that on, it was a whole different game.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome.
You know?
Totally disarmed him altogether.
Totally disarmed him. He didn't say shit to me the whole rest of the game. You know?
Yeah, Bobby Bowden was huge in my young coaching career. I went to the AFCA, and he spoke, and he, you know, coming from St. Paul, everything was black and white. There was no middle ground. I mean, I know there was a ton of middle ground when Marion was there, but by the time I got there, it was kind of like, oh, you know, everything has to be is 10 times more rigid than when Marion was there. But Bobby Bowden said this deal about, you know, we punish the kid how we punish the kid. You know, you don't know that my coach is getting up at 6 in the morning and they're running stairs. We're not going to, I sit down in that guy's living room, and I tell his mama that I'm going to take care of him. The last thing I'm going to do is kick him off the team. The last thing I'm going to do is suspend him. The last thing I'm going to do, we handle our business the way we handle it. You don't know.
Yeah.
You know, not only does he get punished, he loses money in the draft, but my team also loses, and those guys don't deserve it.
Yeah.
I just really loved that, man. It opened my mind. I was like, wow, you know what? I can handle my business off the field, you know.
Nobody knows what your program's about. I mean, right?
It was really cool.
You handle your laundry the way, you know, you think. Every kid's different. Every situation's different.
But nowadays with cancel culture, you have to do it out. You have to do it out loud.
Yeah.
You have to do it in front of everybody. You have to apologize to the world. You have to do, you know, I don't know, man. It's a different deal for sure.
It's different. It's different in different places, though. You know, I mean, I you know, obviously, I coached for the last 8 years at a division, whatever, 10 or 11 school that wasn't a prime football school, and I'll be honest with you, man. When I explained our program to our people, our administration, they left us alone. You know, and they did nothing. If it didn't get back to them as being a problem, but I can't tell you how many times they went, no, that's not the way Chuck handles it. And they, you know, I can go in and pull out his program from on the pages that he gave me, the little booklet that he gave me, and this is how they handle their discipline. You know, and I love that about our people. And I think, you know, most programs have some sort of a foundation of what they believe in, and you know, if you're good at communicating with your administration, you got a chance that they'll back you, you know, especially.
Well, you earned it, Chuck, and definitely Bobby Bowden earned it too.
Those guys are characters, though, man. I mean, they were so fun to listen to and watch.
My God.
Now, what was Joe like at the end there? Was he?
He was very stoic. You know, he was very stoic and stuff like that, he, you know, they had a lot of issues going into that last bowl game that he had to deal with and stuff like that. But I had him in a bowl game like 2 or 3 years earlier and stuff like that. He was a different guy then, you know.
The walls were closing in at that time for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame.
Good coach. I mean, guys like him and, you know, John Robinson was another guy that I really, you know, I was able to be on the field when he was still, you know, when he was coaching at that time. And you know,
and he knew you were a St. Paul guy, did he?
Oh yeah, he knew everything. He knew
Yeah.
you know, my wife's, he knew kids' names and everything.
That's
You know, Bob Toledo was like that too. He'd walk up to you and say, "Hey, how's so and so? How's your kids?" He would know names. Those guys are priceless. You know, they used to have the spring game at SC, and when John Robinson was the head coach, and you know how they used to have it like it wasn't a spring game, it was a scrimmage where they used to invite the parents, you know, and in the practice field, it gets pretty, you know, they have a roped all the way around, and then parents like that. Well, during the scrimmage, John Robinson would wear this little around his neck mic that would come up like this, you know, and he would like during the play, he had nothing to do with football. His assistants were running everything, right? He would walk around after the kid would make a great run and get tackled. He'd like walk over there and go, "Oh yeah, this is so and so. He's from, you know, Costa Mesa High School. You know, he's getting a shot to play today. He's going to have a bright future here." I mean, he would go this whole ordeal with his kid.
That's great.
But that was great for the parents, man.
Yeah.
The parents love that stuff, you know?
Yeah, they did.
And he used to do that for every kid. He knew every kid's name and what high school he went to.
Yeah.
You know,
he was amazing. He was, you know, I met him a couple of times through Matt, and you know, we had fun. We'd go to those games, and then we were able to go up in the press box, and we'd stand up there and watch the game. So we were kind of out of the muck and most of the time. But he was so cordial, and you know, he would, "Hey, Chuck," like I know he didn't really know me, and you know, he remembered,
you know,
he knew I was Matt's brother, and he remembered my name, and you know, and would tell St. Paul stories and you know, Marion stories and stuff like that. But
Matt didn't play for him though, huh, Coach?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Just through the alumni. Yeah.
Yeah, just from being around afterwards and being, you know, again, they'd come around and they'd hang out and watch practice and stuff like that. So you get to the end of your career.
It remind me about Paul Barris. I want to tell you a Paul Barris story.
Yeah, Paul Barris is one of my favorite people on the planet.
Oh my God, I don't.
He was from in the same area of Pennsylvania that my parents were from.
Oh wow!
So we had a little bit of a connection there, and he used to talk to my mom and dad about this, especially my mom. But
the neighborhood.
Yeah. Papa Bear, man, that guy was. I mean, he was the only guy that I ever saw stop Marianne mid-sentence.
Oh yeah.
And I never saw anybody do that before. And he would, you know,
what was his position? What was his role? Was he a defensive coordinator?
I don't know. He was like quality control.
Quality control.
You know, like I don't know if there wasn't that position back then. But
he was the sergeant at arms.
At least whenever I knew him.
That's a perfect description of him, you know.
Yeah.
I remember I was a sophomore and I hadn't gotten my license yet, you know. I had a permit and I was in Marion's class. You remember that class? And so sure enough, it was during summer workouts, and Marion was walking out of there. He goes, Granado, come here. You know how he does it? He goes, come here. He goes, I want you to go down to that. There's a Mexican restaurant on Los Cientos, you know, get some cheese burritos, you know. You get 5 of them. He goes, take my car. He had like a little MG, a stick.
Oh, nice.
And I go down to have my license. He goes, you'll be all right. You have a permit, right? And I said, yeah, I got a permit. Well, I didn't even know where it was, man. I was clueless. Plus, I was scared shitless to be in the coach's office, right? I mean, you just don't go in there, you know?
Especially as a sophomore.
Yeah, he goes, come here. So I walk in the coach's office, and Paul Barris was a big, huge guy, and he had just gotten out of the shower.
Oh boy.
And he was sitting on a chair. Just imagine this room, okay? He was sitting on a chair and he had the towel over his waist, you know, and he's got this big gut sitting there, and Dick Ambrosi's there. Bill Norton,
scariest individuals.
Bill Norton oh yeah, Ambrosi. He has sunglasses in the dark room, so you don't know if he's looking at you. And then Bill Norton and Skates was in there too. So I'm like sitting there, right? I'm a little sophomore kid, you know. I got his keys, and he goes, you know how to get there? I go, no, Coach, I've never been there, man. You know, I lived in La Mirada, right, Chuck? We only went one direction.
Right.
We didn't go the other way.
Head east.
Yeah. So he goes over to Paul Barris, And Paul Barris has these like stretch marks on his guy. He goes, "You take los nietos right here," and you go over like this, and he's pointing at his marks. And Ambrosi and Norton are on their back just rolling. I'm like, and they're like, there's no way I'm gonna laugh, right? But every time I think of Paul Barris, I think of that story because it was, he's like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, those guys were they were bigger than life to me. I just Ambrosi, I think I've told Tom, I think I've told you the story when we were playing Carson, whenever I was a sophomore, and Tim and I were kind of switching off being the scout team quarterback during my sophomore year, and we're playing. And so it's Samoa, I think, and or one of those guys, and we're running the veer, and I run the veer and come down the line, and Don Danduran, who's like, 6'5", tackles me, slams me down on my shoulder, and I get up and my arm's hanging, and I'm, I want to cry, and I go back to the huddle, and Ambrosi's running the scout team, and I get that look on my face, and I'm like, "Coach," and I'm pointing to my arm, and he's like, "Willie, take your pants off." I'm looking at him, and I'm scared to death, and he's screaming, and he's a behemoth, the hairiest individual that I've ever seen. I mean, just this longshore guy. And he's screaming at me to take off my pants. Take off your fucking pants. I'm like, "Coach, he's like, take off your pants. I need to see if you got any hair on your nuts." And I just like hang my head, and I go, the next play's a pass play, and I raise my arm and drop the ball. And then I ended up, with a separated shoulder and shit. And, it was really a funny deal because it parlayed me into going to my first party ever. Dan Ross, who was the other defensive tackle on that defensive line, came up to my parents after that game and said, "I'm going to take him to the party if it's okay with you." And he drove me to the party because I guess he felt like I, at least hung in there, But geez, man, those coaches were just, like I said, they were scary dudes. They were bigger than life, and what a neat memories to have with those guys.
I tell you what, though, guys like. Of course, Marion, but guys like Coach Norton, Bill Norton and stuff, who comes to my practices now. I mean, he'll come to my practice. I mean, those guys were mentors. I mean, I coach today because of guys like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, they were men. They were my example of tough guys and guys that would, guys that I wanted to be like those guys. Norton was, he was a tough dude, man. I just remember watching him in the weight room, and those guys would go in the weight room, and it was amazing. It was an amazing time for that. Those coaches and that coaching staff during those times were, most of them, Dick Bruick, and obviously went on to have an amazing career at Fontana and Kaiser, and those guys were unbelievable in terms of just, like I said, they were bigger than life, and they scared the shit out of me. So.
Guys like that, you try to emulate those guys. I mean, they were. I remember when we lost to Covina in the semifinals, my senior year. I still say Ricky didn't step out of bounds on that run, man.
I'm telling you, man. And,
in your professional opinion,
from where I was, I could see it. Yeah, but it was. Those guys, like I remember, talking to Bill after the game and stuff. I mean, those guys touch you, and that's one of the reasons. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Katulski was another guy that was, I thought, was good for me, Yeah. Good for me.
I think it's a little counterintuitive, Al. I mean, you're coaching now, and you're trying to connect with the kids. It's really counterintuitive. The harder you are on them, and you still show them love, and you still show them loyalty, they go, I guess I can't. I mean, they don't like you in real time, but within halfway through the season or by the end of Hell Week, those are your guys. Those guys will, stand in front of traffic for you, if you're hard on them. And guess what? Society is not particularly hard on their children these days. I mean, that's a big con, right?
I'll tell you what, I've been known to be like, when I was coaching my son, and I mean, I regret when I was coaching my son, I regret a lot of things that I did to my kid, because
being harder on him than normal.
Yeah, because I was a dickhead sometimes, man, because in the back of my mind, I was always not afraid, but I didn't, parents in Orange County are very outspoken.
They're vicious.
Yes. Right. And I never wanted to hear that Dominic was playing because because his dad was the coach.
Favoritism.
Right.
So I was really hard. I was hard on him, man. I mean, there was, I remember when he was a freshman, he started crying. I sent him home. I mean, stuff like that, I mean, that I regret to this day, but
See, I was super hard. I was super hard on my boys, man.
Yeah, you live and learn those kind of things. You know what I mean? I tell you what I do now with kids, man. I might jump down somebody's throat, and I'm kind of brutal at practice because I want guys to be perfect, and but I'll tell you what, I will never ever let them leave the field that day without showing them some love, man. You know what I mean? I'll love a kid up. I'll jump a kid's down his throat at a game, but the very next play I'm hugging him,
Yeah.
With the freshmen, when I was coaching the freshmen,
it's really important to do that,
Yeah.
I would go to the quarterback and say, "Hey, listen, man, there's going to be a point during practice today where I am going to mercifully crucify you. I mean, I'm going to do 10 times what you deserve, but you just got to take it. Okay. Would you do that for me? And then, we'll be cool at the end. I'll hook you up, on the running or something like that." And he would look at me like, "You're going to yell at me, huh, coach?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to get after you, boy. I'm going to call you all kinds of names and stuff." Okay. But when you get after the quarterback in this case, or the running back, or whoever, the badass kid on the team, everybody was like, "Oh shit, Gordon's going after that guy." And he took it like a man. And, and it was a little games that we played, that walk off the field with my arm around the kids, so everyone can see it, really grandstanding on it. We're kind of giggling. Yeah, man, that was pretty awesome. But you got to do it, man.
Yeah.
Because the kids don't have those role models, right? Do they, Al? I mean, there's no guarantee that there's a role model that they can understand.
What happens too is that I know, and it depends where you're at. I mean, I know, like I'm pretty good friends with Barbie over at Poly, and he and I talk to him a lot, and our situation is so much different than their situation.
Yeah.
We got, our kids are, usually have a mom and dad at home.
Yeah, well fed.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not saying there's not issues and stuff like that, because there is. We don't know what happens when they go home.
Right.
Sure.
But situations like that, like kids in Long Beach and Poly, stuff like that, it's unbelievable. Some of the stuff I hear. I mean, there's so much stuff they have to deal with.
Right.
Yeah. It's a different environment.
What are the things that just really pop out at you where you I feel like when I walk on the field and Chuck walks on we know, I see a kid and I go, that kid is going to be successful. And it had maybe nothing to do with their biceps or how fast they can run. But can you talk to our audience about that? Like when you're a coach, you're looking at a kid and, and there's a bunch of coin flips in our day, right? This guy or that guy, how do you make that choice? How do you know which guy to start? How do you know?
What happens with us is that we're fortunate enough. I'll have a kid, for 3 years on varsity, sometimes 4, and Chuck will tell you this too. I mean, the most gratifying to me that I see too is that I like the guys mature. You see a guy grow,
Right.
and sometimes from their sophomore year to junior, this kid's going to be a player.
Yeah.
You just know the level that he's at right now, what he needs to do to get at that level. We one of the things that's really helped us about 13 or 13 years ago, we started Men in the Trenches.
Okay.
And back in the day when Jesse Sapulu was the founder of it, we used to take 3 or 4 guys at OCC, jump the fence, and we'd have, we'd work, 2 hours with technique and stuff like that. And, right before COVID hit, we had 250 guys on Saturdays.
Man. Amazing. Yeah. It's as big as, and I used to watch and see the kids that were out there, and there were just a ton of real big time players, and then a ton of other guys. But the work was going on every time I watched those guys. What a neat deal for the people that don't know. Men in the Trenches is kind of a personal, away from their team. It's a working out offensive lineman and defensive lineman, but it's an amazing to watch. Because it gets pretty competitive.
Yeah, it does, and I tell you what, you go to tournaments. Lineman tournaments, which I'm not kind of real fond of, but you got to be competitive. You have to, participate in those. You can tell the guys that go to Men in the Trenches on Saturdays that put in the extra time. There's a
next level.
Oh yeah. There's a difference,
My experience with the high school kids, with the linemen is, I just have this, they come in really, really soft. There's not a whole lot of tough ass kicking freshman linemen, whatever reason. Their mom gave them the extra cookie. They got to lay on the couch too long. Right. They've never really been pushed, little mijos and mama's boys and all that stuff. How do you get them from that position? Because I'm assuming it's the same where you're at in Edison. How do you get them from that position to that grown man, I'm gonna pull myself up by my bootstrap and knock somebody down.
I think one of the most important part, I tell you what, this is what Marion used to do really well, is that what happens with coaches sometimes that they pay all their attention to the guys they know are going to be real good. I mean, you can spot those guys right off the bat.
Right.
But the guys at St. Paul, they made their living on average kids. Mm-hmm. That's how St. Paul's was successful. They take guys like myself and other guys that were pretty average, right? And they got in your head, you technique the shit out of everything, right? You got in the weight room, you did the work, and by the time you're a junior or senior year, I mean, you're competitive.
Yeah.
How tall are you, Al? How
At the high school level, you can compete. A little different when you go to college. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How big of a guy are you, Al?
What's that?
How big are you? How tall are you?
I'm like 5'11". I'm like maybe 215, 220 right now. So.
And what's your boy? And how big is your boy?
He's 6'5", and he was like 310 at his heaviest. He's trying to be a top right now. He's like 220 right now.
Yeah, I got to get it down.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the truth though. But those fundamentals and doing first steps and stuff like that 400 times, when you do those things with the 4-star or 5-star in terminology of today, those guys are the guys that really improve a lot faster too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
A lot of guys, want to let those guys go and not put time in on the fundamentals as much because they're so much better than everybody else that you forget about those things. So those fundamental things are I mean, I used to tell our coaches, I go, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do these individual or every days, and then we're going to do the first period, and we're going to do these every day, and we're going to do them till the kids get bored, and then we're going to do them some more.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do them till you get bored.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do them some more.
10 more %.
These coaches would get bored too,
I tell you what, man, it's so important. I spend so much time on your first step. I'm on the defensive side. I've been on the defensive side for about 7 years now. And I tell you what, I spend all my time with my guys up front is on the strike.
Yeah.
Striking, what I mean? Locking, grabbing the shit out of somebody, and just white knuckling and I mean, stuff like that. And what's good about at Edison, like I'm sure every other program is like this too. We're all year round.
Yeah.
We're continuously doing stuff, and if not in the weight room, we're, doing a lot of technique stuff. And then we got, like I said, men in the trenches, and I make it mandatory for my guys.
Oh, nice.
I make my defensive linemen mandatory to wrestle. If they don't play other sports, they're going to wrestle. And I make it mandatory for them to go on Saturday.
Nice.
So,
that's big. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not, you go to man in the trenches and, there's 100 guys out there, it's not surprising to see 25 of them come from my school,
That's awesome.
So Edison has this fantastic tradition of taking on all comers. I mean, for years and years and decades, you guys traditionally play Servite at Mater Dei in the preseason, without a doubt.
Yeah. And we get lucky so often we'd beat them, every once in a while,
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. What do you guys do for the leadership? Is there something you guys actively teach as leaders, or just the war-torn concept?
One of the things we preach at Edison is we always tell players, we always say, well, this is the years we want championships, or elite championships. I go, if the coaches have to lead, we're not going to have a very good year.
Right.
It's got to come from within, man. And we start pounding that at a really early stages. You know what I mean?
Do you give them hints like, hey, maybe you should go talk to that guy. Hey, maybe you should go talk to that guy. Maybe you should go do that.
Yeah. Or there's an issue and stuff. We tell guys to take care of it. Kind of like with Chuck when we were there. Vigilantes they took care of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a team thing, and we try to stress that we can't really do that these days.
Yeah, kangaroo court, no good.
But we kind of stress that, hey man, it's a team thing. What do you guys think? You guys take care of it, man. It's a it's a team issue. You know what I mean? But I tell you what, if we have no leaders, or if we have to motivate kids to be leaders, we're going to be in trouble. Yeah,
that's true. Well, and it's nice. How many kids do you guys have on an average varsity football team?
Right now we have 105 kids.
Yeah.
That's our JV and varsity together though. You know what I mean? We don't have,
it's a nice round number.
JV team, we play JV on Thursdays, but we just kind of like, whoever, we
what happened to the JVs on Saturdays? That was such an amazing situation.
We used to play we had a soccer.
You don't play on Friday, you play on Saturday. What's the big deal?
Right.
I don't get it.
Right.
The F troop guys.
Yeah.
Hey, I played those Saturday games, man. I loved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was great when you were a sophomore and you'd play a sophomore game on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then Tim and I would suit up for the varsity and not play. And then we get to go play on Saturday. So we played 2 games a week. It was
that was me. I was a 3-game guy.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. I mean, that's part of a deal. And then, the thing with the JV thing at Edison, I can't remember, and I'm not bragging about anything, but I can't remember the last time we lost a JV game. It's been a while. It's been a while, and I love those JV games because I get to call plays lots of times, you know what I mean? And on both sides of the ball, and lots of times I'm able to use guys that don't get to play at all.
Right.
So you get to, I mean, this is where I always tell guys, this is where, you're going to show your stuff right here, man. Yeah. Tell me what you can do, and shit, you're going to play on Friday nights,
We had the B games at Villa Park, and we would have those guys that were doing the other team's offense. They were the scout team. And finally, I just told the guy, just run the scout team plays that you ran all week. Don't run our offense. Just let them go bang out there, run power, run toss, run. As long as it's in our terminology, just run the plays you've been practicing all week. Yeah. Man, all of a sudden they took off. They were amazing at that point.
I love it because of the defensive corner, man. I tell you what, on first down, I was bringing them every chance I had. I was sending everybody.
Short side corner, here we come.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Al. I want to move on to a couple of like pertinent current questions. This COVID deal and the not playing and the they just had the let the kids play rallies this weekend.
Yeah, we had one at Edison. Yeah.
What's your thoughts? I mean, what's going on with your kids? How does it feel?
I'll tell you what, it's hitting us pretty hard because we've have this every 4 years, man. We have a really good team, and this team we're loaded, and we got 2 quarterbacks that can start anywhere, and we got some legit D linemen. We got 2 DNs I think we have 6 guys have already signed to go to college.
Wow.
We have officially there's no championship this year as of today, right?
Our playoffs.
Yeah, no playoffs.
So we're hoping right now is that we can get 7, 8 games in maybe to play. But this is the dilemma that we run into right now, is that because we have guys that have already signed letters of intent. I mean, I don't know. I would think if I was a player that just is going to Yale or wherever they've signed a letter of intent to, I would think twice about playing in the spring.
Yeah.
Because knowing that, hey, I'm going to be suiting it up here soon anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that our kids want to play. I hear it all the time, but when it comes down to it, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is the opt-out year. People are opting out in all kinds of different ways. And I would see it. I can't imagine playing even 5 games.
Yeah.
And then going and trying to find get playing time at your school, at your college. That'd be brutal on your bodies.
Yeah.
What are you guys talking about in the coach's office? What's the message there?
Well, we talked. I mean, we're pretty close with a lot of the JC guys, the coaches, and they're I guess they've gotten permission. I know Bub over at OCC, he was telling me that, if we don't play football, if we don't play any high school football at all, that they're going to be in pads in the spring, the JCs, and they have permission for our kids, seniors, to go there and actually play with them.
Wow, that's cool.
So that's a good thing. I'm kind of hoping that we get to play just because of the whole thing. It's a bad situation, man. It's heartbreaking to see these guys, that should be playing, and it's hard.
How do you guys keep in touch with the kids? Do you guys meet at 6th period? Do you guys do Zoom? Do you guys send text messages?
If we didn't have the COVID thing going on right now, we have 0 period. Okay. So our football kids start at 7 is their first class. So right when they go to lunch, we're writing, like we used to do at St. Paul, we're writing films, or we break off into our specific groups,
Is 0 period weight room or film?
0 period is school. They go to school. They had classes in the morning.
I thought you meant you had a football class 0.
Well, all the athletes have 0 period. All our football guys do. So they start school at 7, and then they're off after lunch. So during lunch, we go into films, or we break off into our specific, position meetings, whatever it might be. And then after that, we lift, and then we go to practice. So, you know, our practices we have another unique situation we have at Edison, which a lot of schools don't have, is we have 6 on-campus coaches out of the 10.
Yeah.
Man, that's a huge,
that's huge.
Huge benefit. You know, a lot of the guys are teachers there, or they work there. I'm a sub there. So we're on campus, you know, and then the other guys are teachers someplace else. So by the time we're done with films and lifting and stuff, the other guys show up, and now we have, 10 guys on our staff, I think 10 or 11 guys. I'm not sure, but we start practice, and then, we're usually done between 4:30, we're done, and that's kind of nice to be done that early.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of schools that are waiting until 4 o'clock to get all their coaches there.
Exactly. So you're not done until it gets dark.
Yeah.
They get coaches, and by the time you go back and evaluate or watch because we film all our practices, so the kids are able to go home and watch it, and huddle, or we watch them. Lots of times we want to see something, we'll go in the coach's office and put it on.
Yeah.
Isn't huddle the greatest thing in the world?
The greatest thing ever. I love it too, because you don't have to exchange films. I mean, it keeps you from. We go out and watch teams in person, just if there's some special we want to see, but it's nice when you can watch films on Sunday and you got huddle. You don't have to go Friday night and scout or anything.
Well, yeah, it's fantastic. The breakdowns and getting kids to be, the best thing. When I had a guy the first year we had huddle, I had a guy that did it. He understood all that stuff and stuff, and I said, damn it, these guys aren't even watching this stuff. Yeah. He's like, oh, coach, hold on. And he punched it up. Yeah. And there was everybody's minutes and
your hours. Yeah.
Oh. What I do every week, and I tell you what, I have a good relationship with the assigners in Orange County. I mean, a lot of those guys that assign stuff I work junior college football games with, I've known him for.
Aldine still involved?
Aldine passed away. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had brain cancer. Yeah. Aldine was a really good friend of mine. Paul Caldera and those guys that assign.
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, Russ Finley passed away too. I don't know if
Russ passed away.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But, Paul Caldera. Anyway, every after every game, I put a officials training tape together.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I do anywhere from like 10 to 15 plays, not a lot. And I make comments about if there's a foul, and it's not a correct call. I usually don't bury them. I just say, well, who can see this? This is not really a call. It's not an incorrect call, but it's kind of marginal.
Right.
There's no reason to call that.
It was great. I sent,
they appreciate it though, man, because they use it as a training tape for the following week.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, those guys loved it. They'd go, shit, Chuck, you might be one of the only guys that sends the film every week.
Yeah.
Like,
every week I do.
Circle 1 or 2 plays or highlight 1 or 2 plays for them. And
it doesn't have to be a lot of plays, man.
No, but you know what? They'd come back, and the next time they had that crew,
right,
they were a little more friendly. I tell
you what, man, I'm very adamant about. I'm not a hard ass about stuff like that, but I'm really adamant about mechanics.
Yeah.
Because that's so important, man. I mean, you get a guy calling, out of the back of the end zone from the goal line. That's not acceptable, man.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Division 10, you get some really wacky dudes.
Oh, God.
It's crazy. I mean, we've had some.
I can't tell you how many times I call Paul, and I say, hey, man, the guy headlinesman you guys had, do not ever send him to our school again.
Right.
Yeah. Or what happens with guys too is that they get to be a certain age. They just can't. They don't.
Oh, dude, we got guys that they couldn't run 10 yards.
Whoa.
And we had one guy that looked like he was going to cry every time you hollered at him. I mean, it was just and you felt bad. I felt bad. I'm like, well, I want to get something out of you. I don't want to make you cry. But
we had a referee on the freshman level. This must have been 4 years ago. He was 83 years old. And I know this because he also umpired the softball game that I coached. And I had the document that he had to sign to get paid. And I looked at his birthday. I was like, dude, you're 83 years old. He's like, yeah. And he was doing soccer too. Can you imagine?
Hey, also the more power to him though. If he can be productive and do that,
He wasn't great. I'm not gonna say his name. He wasn't very good, but at least he was out there, with the white hat. He knew the rules,
Right. Well, softball used to crack me up because amongst officials, if you work softball, it was known as the graveyard of officiating.
Oh man, JV softball is the worst.
Yeah, that's where guys went to kind of like
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, I'm really glad to have you come on and tell some stories, and it's great to chat a little bit. We do a couple things at the end of the road. Tom asks some quick fire questions, and we do a little fun stuff at the end. So we'll throw some of them out there to you. But
hopefully I can be quick enough to answer them, man.
Take your time. The editing tools are work great for guys like you.
Just real quick, is there a coach at Edison named Rick Justice?
Yeah, Rick. I shared office with Rick.
Okay, so this is gonna sound weird, but my freshman year, Edison plays I think Crespi in the Big A for the championship.
Yeah.
And Rick Justice was on that team, and he never came off the field. And that was sort of the Gordy Lockbaum era, the Iron Man era.
Yeah.
And I took my best friend Rick Cepeda, who's in this picture right here, and we were at the game because I had a car, and we watched Rick. We were like, this is our idol. He was our hero. I wanted to wear 7 at St. Paul, which obviously would have got my head cut off, but no single digits. But I was like, I need to wear 7, Rick Justice. I want to be Rick Justice.
Yeah.
And so if you tell Rick, I don't know what kind of guy he is. I never met him in my life, but
he's a good
Rick Justice. He's got a fan from the day.
Yeah. I got to coach with Rick for 10 years, I think. We're on the same,
cool.
Yeah, we shared the same office.
Oh,
he's
man.
a solid guy. He went to Weaver.
He was my idol. Like I never seen a better football player overall.
He's a little tiny. He's a small little guy.
Yeah.
And he was a wide receiver at Weber State. I mean, he was. He's a stud, man. The guy's a good. He was all CIF, and he broke.
Oh man, he did not come. He held for the field goal. I mean, he did everything. He did not. I was like, this guy's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in there, Edison.
It's funny. It's a small world. It's a small world, when you start talking about guys.
What a great name. What a football name, Rick Justice.
I used to see guys when I used to go. At one point in my career, in the middle of my career, I would go work an arena game, and you get to know the trainers and some of the coaches and stuff. And then I would go work NFL Europe for 2 weeks, and I'd see a lot of those same guys. And then I'd come back and be in the Pac-10, and some of those guys that were working in NFL Europe would go to camp.
Okay.
So can you imagine their bodies? I mean, God,
unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, man.
That's funny, Al, because we have a girl coming on, a woman coming on next week who ran the halftime shows and all the entertainment for the London Monarchs.
Oh, okay.
She ended up working for the Denver Broncos and was involved. When I first met her, she had 2 rings, Al. I had none. It's like, how you have 2 Super Bowl rings,
Yeah, I have a world championship ring because I worked their World Bowl.
That's funny because then
Frankfurt,
I guess
Frankfurt.
That's great. You guys would probably cross paths because that was, in fact, she might have told this story to me about, that was like the second time that year that they played Frankfurt. And, there was all this whole story that went along with that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but isn't that's the small world deal.
Coach Luganville was at San Diego State.
Right.
He coached in the Arena Football League too. I used to know him. And also when I worked in the XFL, they coached the LA team.
Wow.
Tommy Maddox was the quarterback.
He hated me.
Oh my God, man. It was
well, see, Tom Jay was she's the one that ran the XFL cheerleaders. That whole thing was quite interesting. But
hey, McMahon, I tell you what, of all the guys I've ever worked, the most fun I've ever had, the best guy I ever worked for was McMahon. I mean, that XFL was a blast.
Yeah,
blast.
It was a blast. They had great rules. They had the big cameras. They had a Bubba cam. When the guy used to get tackled, they had to get the camera come in, the pile. It was crazy.
What's your thoughts, real quick, before we get going? What's your thought that we get our first female referee in the Super Bowl this year, huh?
Yeah, Sarah. I think you're Sarah.
She's a stud, huh?
Yeah, she's a really good official. I mean,
breaking down those barriers, man.
yeah, you know something, guys, they get all uptight about, she's taking somebody's spot. Well, not really.
No,
I mean,
she earned it, huh?
yeah, she earned it.
It's easy.
She's good. I mean, did it help her because she was a female? Yeah, of course it did. But she's they always used to tell you that, yeah, it took me a long time to get in the Pac-10, but you know what the hardest part is staying there.
Yeah.
Because, once you get in, man, you're in.
You get graded and that's it, huh?
Now you're getting scrutinized. They're counting the hairs in your nose, man. I mean, they're looking at your bill where it's looking at. I mean, you get scrutinized.
God, that's crazy.
If you got thin skin, man, it's not a place for you to be,
Well, I'll tell you what, you've obviously made quite an impression on that world, because anybody that I ever talk to, the guys know you from all over the place.
Hey, Chuck, I used to walk off the field lots of times. I used to look at my referee and I go, man, I fooled him again.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, Al, here we go. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. What's your Desert Island 5 records? What 5 albums are you taking to the Desert Island?
Oh, man. It'd have to be Ted Nugent for sure.
Okay.
Ted Nugent, Rolling Stones.
Okay.
Let me see. Led Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm.
Foreigner.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Pink Floyd.
All right.
Is that 5?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Boy, that was pretty quick.
You did good.
Yeah.
Who's one person who made an impact on your life that doesn't know it?
You know something? In my officiating career, probably a guy named Carl Paganelli. I don't know if you know that.
I heard that name, I think. Yeah.
Carl Paganelli was the supervisor of officials in the Arena Football League. He hired me when I wasn't qualified to work there, but he needed a guy.
Yeah, wow.
He lived in Michigan, and the rules was that you had to be a Division I official to work in the Arena Football League, and I wasn't yet.
Oh, wow.
And he picked me up, and I think that's what really zoomed my career. After that, I was like, wow, this guy doesn't work Division I football. He's in the Arena Football League. So,
that's cool.
Yeah, he's got 3 boys that are in the NFL. And
maybe that's where I know the name. Yeah.
Yeah, his youngest, Dino Paganelli, is the bag judge in the Super Bowl this year.
Huh.
Man,
Wow.
holy moly.
But he passed away 2 years ago now, I think. Great guy, man. He kind of like took me under his wing, and I wasn't like the best official, but towards the end, man, I worked, in my career in the Arena Football League, I worked the Arena Bowl 6 times, and there's not one official that's ever worked it that many times.
Man,
Wow.
that's sweet.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So yeah, he groomed me, man, because after that first year, I think he wanted to fire me, but he stuck with me, Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, it's
It
cool.
is, man. I tell you what, I made a ton of friends in the Arena Football League.
Nice.
I worked with guys there in the Big East, the Big Ten, the SEC. I met a ton of officials. I could watch a game right now and probably name 2 or 3 officials.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What's one thing every young athlete should know?
Never quit. I think guys throw the towel too early.
Wow.
There's no perseverance anymore, man, with kids. You know what I mean? They want to quit. And I just don't get that. I mean, they don't want to suffer. They don't want to pay the price to get where they want to be. And I used to tell this with the young officials, even coaches, man. Some coaches, they come in, they want to coach high school football, they want to be on varsity right away. Well, it doesn't work that way, man. I think you got to cut your teeth on the freshman team a little bit. It's degrading to them. I don't, I never understood that.
Yeah. It's weird. I never thought I'd hear the day, and then I started hearing it. I'm just not having fun anymore. I'm like, I said, you're really good.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're not having fun? I'm just not having fun anymore.
How about I have to work on my grades? That's another one that blows.
Like you're going to take the 3 hours of football time and go study. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I always tell the guy, I go, you don't want to be, and this is a true story. Chuck can attest to this. Is you don't want to be, you don't want to be the guy in your area right there. When you're 40 years old and you're throwing a few back at the Tamarack, you don't want to be one of those guys saying, oh, geez, I should have played, my last 2 years in high school.
Yeah. That's
That
awful.
that feeling sucks.
Yeah.
You don't want to be one of those guys,
Yeah. And I know those guys,
I do too. I do too. Yeah.
What would you
those
like?
Those are the guys when we're not around, Al. They're telling stories like they did play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
What would you like to be known for in 50 years, Al?
Oh my God. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to be known as I was a good coach.
Right on.
I tell you what, man, I think that's my calling, but I went into, officiating, which wasn't a bad deal, man. I got, officiating's opened a lot of doors for me, and I've got to go and do things that I never would have done if I wasn't officiating,
That's cool.
That is cool.
But I think the thing that is I want to be known as, a good coach,
If you had Jeff Bezos money, what would you spend it on to make your community or your country stronger?
I think, the thing that breaks my heart and it drives me crazy is the homeless, man. I mean, I see every day when I'm driving to school, man, somebody sleeping on the side of the road, or a woman, or kids. I mean, that breaks my heart. I'm just thinking, geez, how do they do it? I mean, if I had a shitload of money like that, I think I would help I would help people, do that. It's sad to me.
Yeah.
I mean, and everybody has a story, man. You always think to yourself, how did they get to that point? How'd they get there?
Yeah.
Al, I was in Long Beach, 1993,
Mhm.
and Rocky Blyer was sitting on the curb next to the bar I was in. I came out of the bar, and there's the Super Bowl champion,
Wow.
Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart, homeless. Can you imagine that?
No, it's wrong.
And we're talking about, I mean, I don't want to get political, but I mean, we're talking about a significant portion of these homeless people maybe are veterans, maybe serve the country. I mean, that's
Mental illness and our veterans. That's sad.
oh my gosh.
I know a lot of people hate Donald Trump and stuff, but I think he was on the path to helping our veterans.
They deserve it, man.
Oh yeah,
They wrote that check.
they paid the price.
All right, so we're gonna go fast now, just easy ones. Just tell me which one you like here. Okay, here we go. Elvis or Jerry Lee?
What's that?
Elvis Presley or Jerry Lee Lewis?
Elvis, there's no doubt. Elvis.
Okay, Beatles or the Stones?
Stones.
Ford or Chevy?
Ford.
Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Whiskey or tequila?
Whiskey.
Android or iOS?
iOS.
Baseball or football?
Football.
Blonde or brunette?
Brunette.
J-Lo or Selma?
Selma.
Batman or Superman?
Superman.
World War II or Vietnam?
World War II.
Vin or Chick?
Vin or Chick?
Vin Scully or Chick Hearns?
Oh, Vin Scully.
That's it. That's all I got.
That's awesome.
That's a wrap.
That was a goodie. Vinny,
Well,
man.
like I said, Al, thanks so much for coming on with us, man.
I tell you what, I really feel honored.
Oh, that's cool.
That you guys let me on. And Chuck, we should stay in touch more, man. Man, we grew up together too.
I know. Well, I was telling Tom when I was a sophomore, I used to drive and pick you up every once in a while. We
La Mirada
drove
Zone.
into school together for a while.
We lived in the same neighborhood, man.
Yeah.
Tom
Well,
Gilmore,
I think that's absolutely true, Al. We should connect. And as soon as we get done with some of the stuff, we scoop up Norton and Skates and those guys and go have a meal. Maybe we've been waiting to go to Trainees for a while now.
Yeah, so. Let's go, man. I love that place. Yeah.
All right. Well, the next time we do, I'll make sure I reach out to
all the boys and get a Joe, Pina. I know he's really involved with that. What is that?
Football for Life. Yeah.
Football for Life and stuff like that. We had a bunch of equipment. I think it's still available too. That I got to get a hold of them.
Nice.
See,
that's awesome. I'll let them know. I'll put it. We've got 4 camps going on this year. If the COVID thing lifts enough for us to do them. So
what else we have too is that we want to get rid of. We got a couple sleds.
Really?
Oh wow.
Okay.
We don't. I mean, they don't. We can probably dig up the pad somewhere. But the trick is getting them there. Probably.
Yeah, but he's got some. He gets some people to do some stuff. So I'll let him know. I'll put him in contact with you and have him reach out to you. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I'll see what we got. This COVID thing's kind of slowing everybody down a little bit, but I'm kind of hoping that it moves along and.
So we had Joe on the podcast, so you got to go on and subscribe to our podcast, man. You got to give us some love so we can get a following.
Yeah, I will.
Got to get Rick Justice as our follower. Then my job will be done.
Yeah. I'll see Rick. Rick. I'll tell him that story.
He gives us a thumbs up. That's it.
He'll love it. You know, he's always.
I'm a 50-year-old man with this idol, right?
Yeah, you guys. I tell you what, you guys are welcome to come anytime you want to come to Edison. You guys are welcome to come.
We should. Well, that's it for us today. We can't thank Al Granados enough. What an incredible story. What an amazing adventure. What a great guy. Don't you just want to go have some wings and beer with the fella? Anyhow, you're welcome back anytime, Al. We love you, man. Thanks so much. And for Chuck, on behalf of Chuck, this is Tommy G. Peace and love.